Get it? Because we did a shitty job editing it every time.
Hello and welcome to In the Garage, the number one. We don't have a tagline. Welcome to In the Garage. Tagline to be determined.
We have a tagline.
Oh yeah, didn't you come up with one last time?
Totally the definitive discussion.
It's totally gnarly, outrageously cool.
Yeah.
I'm Chris, as usual. We're back at it again, coming at you with the Green album, otherwise known as Weezer, because that is what this podcast is about. I'm going to turn to you first, wearing a green sweatshirt.
In honor of this album.
In honor of this album. Sitting in the chair. This is our first time recording in a Chaz, because little setup, and so we actually get to sit right across from his lovely collection of Weezer collectibles. I spied some kind of CD called My Name is Weezer, and we'll definitely ask him about that in a bit. But we're actually going to first turn to the Weezer neophyte, the man in green. It's Tyler. How are you doing today, Tyler?
What if you combine neophyte and Weezer, and I'm
Weophyte? Oh, now that I do not like. What about... Nope, that makes no sense. I'm just going to stop myself right there.
I don't mind. We should do neophyte.
Weophyte is really bad, and I like it.
It seems like, like when you get a Nintendo
Weophyte?
Yeah.
Now, Tyler, you were going to play some guitar for us earlier and quickly aborted it.
Well, if you're going to call me out like that, then let's go for it.
Oh, for the listeners, Tyler has picked up guitar.
I'm not good at guitar.
Now, Tyler is a notorious bad guitar player. Let's see what he's got for us. Nice. Okay, turning to the third member of our legendary trio. He is the Weezer master. He is the man with the plan. He has a copy of the Green album on LP in front of him as a reference for the track list. It's Chaz. How you doing today, Chazzy Chaz?
I'm good. I just finished an exam not that long ago, and I am feeling very happy to be done.
Nice. It's so nice to be in bed with you. Now, what can you tell us about that My Name is Weezer CD?
It's a bootleg CD. I think the company that made it was... Oh, I don't want to get into too much detail about...
No, you're going to say, I don't want to get into trouble.
No, I mean, so there's a company called Trademark of Quality that used to bootleg LPs back in like the 70s and stuff, I believe. Then they went out of business. Then sometime in the 90s, another company using a similar logo or the same logo with the same name came up and started doing CD bootlegs that aren't affiliated with the original, even though they're trying to be. So that's what this CD is on, I believe. Nice. Oh, wait, no, I'm looking at the album code. That's a different CD I'm thinking of.
Wow.
This one is on, I think, Expire Records or something. So forget everything about Trademark of Quality.
I'd like to expire right now. Thanks for that. I'm sure we'll come back to that and revisit some of your collectibles. But today, we're talking about something that you got right in front of you. It's a little something, a little album, a little LP, 10 songs long. Should be familiar to all of us by now. It's called Weezer. Now, you might ask yourself, what the heck? We just did Weezer.
You just talked about Weezer.
Yeah, the band Weezer.
And their album, Weezer.
Yeah, that was 2 albums ago. So what's the deal? Well, I'll tell you. Let's just hop right into it. Released 2001. I'd love to not be wrong about that.
I think May 15th, 2001.
This is something of a comeback album, you'll notice. So we had Pinkerton, 96. 5 years removed from getting another Weezer album.
They take a whole 5 years off.
Yeah, they were relaxing.
A lot of interesting stuff happened in that time.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about it. Yeah, 2001, they've really aged past their mid-90s, sort of where they started up. Now they're in the 2000s, so you might think it's going to be hard for them to adjust.
It's a brand new world.
Yeah. And I feel like you can kind of hear a little bit of like newness to it. It doesn't sound like the old stuff. The pop punk scene had a little bit infiltrated, so I feel like they went for a slightly modified version of their original style. But we'll get into all that. You got Rivers. Ever heard of him? He's the main character of our story. So he goes, if you'll remember, around the time of Pinkerton, he's going to Harvard for songwriting. After Pinkerton, he goes back to Harvard, goes there for a while.
He doesn't graduate, does he?
No, he drops out because he wants to focus on his songwriting, ironically. And I'll turn to you, Chaz, because you have a mastery of this area. He starts playing in Boston, in the Harvard area, with a little group called Homie. Now, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was certainly a very interesting point in time. At that point, it was kind of before Matt Sharp had officially left the band, but it was fairly inevitable. So Rivers was kind of going around playing with a bunch of guys, if I recall correctly. And some shows they called themselves Homie, and other ones it was just like a Rivers Cuomo solo show. They didn't really play too many Weezer songs. I have one CD of theirs, and they only played a very interesting version of The Good Life, and no one else. But the rest were a bunch of Homie original tunes, which I think are very interesting. They're almost more country sounding, but I quite dig them. And at that point, they were kind of auditioning for new bassists, and that's where Mikey Welsh came in.
And as you said that, you tapped on the cover of the Green Album to indicate him. None of that stuff made it into Weezer songs, right? Maybe?
Not really. The only Homie song ever officially released was American Girls, and that was on the soundtrack to, I want to say, a film called Meet the Deedles. I think that's what it was.
What the?
That sounds like a bad movie.
I think it might have been Disney. Don't quote me.
I will not. Like you said, the band, they're let's be honest, they're in a tough spot right now.
Yes.
Pinkerton's come out. It's a bit of a flop. They're not happy with it. I think it's around 1998. Matt Sharp leaves the band. Is that accurate?
Yes.
The band is not even together at this point. Like they're not broken up, but have sort of gone their separate ways at the moment. They're working with side projects and solo stuff, etc. So Rivers, he's chilling. He blacks out all his windows, I believe. Just completely hides from the light and writes like over 100 songs, just because he's Rivers. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time as this, sort of unbeknownst to them, they're gaining a lot of word of mouth buzz. Especially Pinkerton is gaining a lot of word of mouth buzz, largely over the internet.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to also add that I just searched up Meet the Deedles to make sure I was right. I don't think it's Disney, but interesting fact, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 4%.
Out of how many reviews? 25?
27.
Oh, so maybe one positive review. Yeah, do you know anything about the early days of the Weezer web?
Oh, I know Carl Koch was kind of the webmaster, and I guess he sort of still is. Yeah, I don't really know what sites people really talked about Weezer a lot on. I know they had something, I forget if it was with AOL or some early web thing, where you could kind of go on and talk to them. I think this was before the Green Album even came out. Mm-hmm. I'm not 100% sure. There's kind of an extra bit on the video capture device DVD that shows like a clip of them kind of advertising it.
Interesting.
But yeah, they played a bunch of shows, toured a decent amount in 2000 to kind of like say, hey, we're not dead, we're coming back.
Yeah, that's I have that here, that they the first show that they sort of came back together to play was this music festival in Japan.
Yeah.
And then they start playing shows as Goat Punishment. Do you know what that's a reference to?
Not really sure what the reference is with Goat Punishment, but I know they played a lot of like Nirvana covers and their own. They played a lot of Weezer songs as well, but kind of played under the pseudonym Goat Punishment. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of like really like hardcore Weezer fans and a lot less like casual Weezer fans there, because people would see Goat Punishment and be like,
I don't want to see that. Yeah, that's what I was seeing, is that like they sort of did that as like an intentional thing where you would only have the hardcore coming out. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that was already a recognizable name or if that just kind of spread that was a thing. But yeah, that started being a thing. They also played the Warped Tour, I believe.
Yeah.
That was a big for them, that they saw they had a lot of positive response there. And so they were kind of like, hey, people don't hate us. So they pick up old...
Yeah, they didn't.
That's true. They pick up Mikey Welsh, and I'm tapping on the cover as well, as their new bassist, now that old Matt's gone, may he rest. Mikey Welsh, how long was he a member of Weezer?
So he...
was it over 1 year?
Yeah. I guess he kind of officially joined in 98. And then towards the end of 2001, partway through the Green Album tour, they kind of canned him there.
Yeah, I heard that they were filming the music video for Island in the Sun.
The
and
second
couldn't find him.
music video for Island in the Sun.
I'm sorry. They're feeling good. They're living life. And they think, hey, you know what bands do? Record albums. So they get back in the studio. What? Hey, what? They thought about self-producing, and then they thought, hey,
What happened last time?
Yeah, remember what happened last time? Let's not do that again. So, who do they get?
Rick Ocasek.
Oh, I was going to ask Tyler if he had any guesses.
Oh, well, you shouldn't have set it up that poorly, then.
You might be right. They get back with Rick Ocasek, just like Blue.
Mr. Cars himself.
Yeah, the driver, they call him.
I always thought
ol'.
Benjamin Orr was a better vocalist in the Cars.
I always thought that Ryan Gosling was a better driver. So they get together, they record this album, and then they put it out. They call it Weezer. It's a lime green background. It's very similar to the original Blue album cover, as very much an intentional nod, I feel, both because they're recording with Rick and because I think they sort of want to signify to fans like, hey, remember that album that you all didn't like? Let's just put that out of our minds.
Past that. And they start a tradition of whenever people are starting going like, what is Weezer up to again? What's their deal?
Whenever people start hating Weezer.
Whenever people start hating Weezer, they sometimes fail in their response, but the response is to pose in front of a big block color and call the album Weezer, and it's colloquially called the whatever color that is, and that's how they roll.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we should just get right into it. This is a departure, obviously, because, Blue Album, Pinkerton, the big two, as I call it. I feel like a lot of our opinions were very similar. I feel like there was a lot of gushing over all the great songs on those albums, and so I feel like we're getting into territory.
Very interesting territory.
That is a little more interesting, a little divisive. I'll turn to you first, Chaz, because you are a big fan of this album.
I absolutely love this album. Every time I put it on, I don't turn it off at the end. If I've got it on my phone, it just plays through probably about 3 times before I notice it.
Because it is a very short album.
It is.
It's 28 minutes long. It's shorter than
long.
Pinkerton, which was already short.
Mm-hmm. I think some general thoughts about this is they were playing it very safe, so they kept a lot of the lyrics less embarrassing in some ways. Mm-hmm. There's still some more emotional songs on the album, I think, but a lot of them are more like poppy, upbeat songs they don't have too much lyrical content to them, even though some of the lyrics are pretty fun. But yeah, a lot of playing it safe. There's not a whole lot of interesting instrumentation in this. A lot of it is very straight, like power chords and relying on the vocal melodies. Mm-hmm. And I think the vocal melodies on this album are just some of the absolute best that Weezer's done.
I'll say it. I'm not a big fan of this one. This is not one of my favorite post Pinkerton Weezer albums. I think it plays it safe to a fault. I think it does suffer from being a little bland. I think the song structures suffer from being a little bland. It makes sense that this is the album they made because they were sort of reeling and it was sort of a comeback, back to basics kind of album. But I do feel like they, as you say, they played it safe. It's the vanilla ice cream of Weezer albums.
It definitely suffers from it playing it too safe with both like the less interesting instrumentation and the more basic song structure. I would definitely agree with that, but I still think the songs have a lot to offer, more than a lot of people give them credit.
Okay, well, and we will get into that. I'll turn to you, Tyler. How many times have you heard this album? We had a group listen today.
Just now.
Yeah, we scribbled some notes. But how many times total do you think you've heard the whole album?
Sitting down tracks 1 through 10 in a row, I'd say probably about 3 times.
Okay.
So this album is still very fresh for me, and
Yeah.
every single time I've ended up liking it quite a bit more.
Okay.
I think this is a very interesting point in Weezer's history, because the major consensus among music lovers is that their first 2 albums are the ones you want to listen to, and kind of after that, many people agree that after that, you can just kind of forget about Weezer. I've seen a lot of comments, especially on places like the Weezer subreddit. People go, hey, I'm new to Weezer, what should I listen to? And everyone goes, a lot of people go, Blue and Pinkerton, and then you can just kind of... Sometimes they go, everything will be all right in the end is okay, but it's usually those 2, and then you're done. There's not much else to get from them. But like I said before, this album I find very interesting. Listening to it with you guys, it's a very listenable album. Goes down real smooth. And
It's like Tito's vodka.
yeah, you know how to hand distill it.
To your point about Blue and Pinkerton sort of being the de facto recommendations, I think part of that is also like the subsequent albums are, I feel like pretty divisive. Like I almost feel like the albums that people like from post Pinkerton are kind of like reflections of what you like about Weezer. Like, because they do all have very specific, it's like every one, it feels like, fills a certain niche of what makes Blue and Pinkerton really special without
quite
hitting all the
those heights,
exactly.
yeah.
And
That's an interesting take.
yeah, and we'll definitely get into that as we sort of view the discography more holistically as we progress deeper into it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting comeback. It's a very interesting stance for a new millennium. It's a very...
Pre 9/11.
Yeah, I was gonna mention post Y2K, pre 9/11.
This is right in that pincer
Right in the
moment
pocket.
of early 2000s where nothing could go wrong, and they wanted to reinstate themselves as a mainstream band that, everyone from teens to moms would like and listen to.
Everyone from teens to moms.
I would agree with that, especially
all
stuff like
geezers
Island in the Sun.
Should be, into Weezer. And I think this is also a trend of Weezer really kind of setting their sails to whatever trend is going on in music at that time. I find their post-Pinkerton albums are also a very interesting reflection of what the trends are in music at the point where they released the album that they did. And this is a very interesting reflection of 2000, 2001 rock and hard rock styles.
Yeah, it does really make you think of like Sum 41, Blink 182, like that kind of pop punk, like just in terms of like the driving power chords. The
Green Day.
Sure.
Green Day's a big one for this album for
The
me.
super, just like very simple, I feel like, quick and dirty. I say we jump right in to we've got the tracks. We've made our
compiled
rankings.
list.
We have our compiled list, 1 to 10, as per usual, of our songs on the album. I was expecting some more diversity because, as I said, once you get past Pinkerton, people have different feelings on different albums, and I feel like that extends to the song level as well. But we will see. There wasn't quite as much diversity as I thought. There is, once again, as we experienced with Blue, a sort of morass in the middle.
Nice word choice.
Thank you. We were pretty unanimous near the bottom. Our number 10 song is Hash Pipe.
Ooh. Or as he says in the song, ooh.
No, none of us had this higher than 9th place, which I think is interesting because I feel like it is one of the more interesting songs on the album.
Following another trend from Weezer, it's their first single.
Exactly. I was going to bring that up.
Speak on that.
Yet again, they picked just a not good song. Which, when you think about it, in that stage in the music industry, the first single was still very important. It's not like today where people it's in vogue for them to go, here's a whole 24 song album out right now, go listen to it. They would have a lead up to the album with a number of songs saying, oh, here's this one side of the album, here's another side, which is still a bit of a thing, but I still can't imagine being in '96 and hearing El Scorcho and being like, this is what Pinkerton is gonna sound like, and then to be that kind of fan and stick through 5 years and then hear Hash Pipe and be like, this is what Green's gonna sound like.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, as you said, once again, not really a primer for what it sounds like. To be fair, Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo had already come out in 1999, but were audiences ready for a song about a male prostitute? Chaz, do you want to speak on that?
About the male prostitute? Or?
Well, about anything you feel like.
I was just going to give my general thoughts on the song.
Okay. That's okay too, I guess.
You guys are both really right about like people not necessarily being ready for it. And like you said, Tyler, I really don't think that people were ready for El Scorcho when it came out, from what I've heard of at least. It was kind of a weird reception to it and kind of a weird primer for Pinkerton, at least. Even though I do think this is one of the worst songs on the album, I still really enjoy it. I think it's easily the most unique song on the CD. Mm-hmm. I like the falsetto vocals in the verse, I'm not going to lie, even though the chord progression underneath just does not do it for me. That
Yeah.
That part really doesn't do it for me.
I do feel like that's like the main weakness of the song, is like, interesting as it is, and it does some interesting stuff, like it's one of the heaviest Weezer songs, maybe, period.
Yeah.
No real reason.
Yeah. The guitar tone is really interesting. Like the solo is interesting, I feel like.
Yeah, I'd say it has probably one of the most unique solos on it.
But the melody, like the music just isn't there.
I would say it's the least catchy song on the album.
I'd say it's the least catchy song of all time.
I think the weird part about that kind of progression that's really heavy is, even though I don't like it so much in the verse, I kind of dig it a bit in the outro and I guess kind of the pre-chorus. I think a lot of the songs on this album, maybe not so much this one, but a lot of other songs, I found myself while I was listening to them being like, wait, is this the verse or the chorus or the pre-chorus?
There's a lot of that, yeah.
Or what? Okay.
The songs are so short that
it's
hard to like distinguish. Like,
like,
where am I right now?
And like some of them, I'm just like, wait, is this a chorus or a bridge? Or
it seems more like they just compiled these songs like per section.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is like section to section to section instead of, oh, this is verse, pre-chorus, chorus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because definitely some of them sound like they might start on the chorus or they might start on the verse and then, I don't know. I'm going to stop talking about that because we have to move on.
Just not that much to like.
I like it okay. Again, it's an interesting song. I will be charitable and say it's an interesting song. Like, I'd rather have a bad, interesting song than a mediocre, not interesting song. Mm-hmm. So, props to them for that, I suppose. Is it I've got my eyes wide or I've got my ass wide? Because this is apparently a point of contention that I was not aware of.
Ooh, like...
Because the song is about a male prostitute. We know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
What did you think it was? Eyes wide?
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm looking at Genius right now. It says, I've got my ass wide.
Exactly.
Well, I always
and
thought
clicking on that connotation says,
Annotation.
the actual lyric here is a topic of controversy.
Exactly.
what the
That's what I'm
hell? Like, I always thought it sounded like he said, I got my ass wiped or something like that.
I think that's also
ass wiped.
No, I just assumed it was, I've got my eyes wide.
I swipe.
I swipe. Did you just make that up?
A song about Tinder or something?
I've got my eye swipe. It's a good way of describing the modern cell phone. Am I right? Am I right? But guys, am I right? All right, that's a resound. The silence is deafening. So I think Chaz and I agree. Eyes wide.
I didn't think that Rivers Cuomo would put ass wide in a song.
I was not aware of this as a controversy at all.
Yeah.
Or that there was any thought to it not being eyes wide.
I would not have thought ass wide, but I could see ass wipe given verse 2, which I'm going to read verbatim. I can't help my boogies, they get out of control. I know that you don't care, but I want you to know. The knee stocking flavor is a favorite treat of men that don't bother with the taste of a teat.
It's disgusting.
Real bad. That's just bad. I think this is
holy shit. I have never read the lyrics to this song. I just thought it was a random rambling. But as soon as someone says gay prostitute, I'm like, holy shit.
So much is clicking into place here.
It's like hearing Lola again after someone tells you the song's about a transvestite.
or Wild Side, am I right?
Yeah, that one too. Except that one's a little more obvious.
That one's
I
very
find.
explicit, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think this is a kind of a foreshadowing of what's to come and what people
In
call
what
like
respect?
the real bad years of Weezer, where the song it really comes off like they feel like they're being super cool and edgy and badass, and they're just not that badass or cool or anything. And this
Yeah.
riff is way too heavy, and it comes off. It has not aged well. It's got a real early 2000s like scooped mid, super distorted, sleek, slick guitars that kind of dominate the whole album, but the guitars could not be less interesting in this song.
Wait, I'm not gonna lie. That the whole thing that might change my rating of this song. Cause I used to just think it was like just stupid like ramblings and shit, but now.
No, yeah.
Now that you know
wow.
that it's very coordinated ramblings and
I
shit.
can't love my business if I can't get a trick down on Santa Monica where tricks are for
I
kids.
hate that line. Can I just
Now that I know it's about a gay prostitute, I think it makes it sound more interesting.
Oh, you're saying this goes up in your opinion?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, I said it was an interesting song. And I meant
Wow,
it.
look at this. Learning
think-
Look
something
at
new.
it. You're here staring at the album as if you're seeing it for the first time.
Wow, you know what? Looking at that title hash pipe, I can really see it.
It is right at the top. Wait, sorry, it's more in the middle. Anyways,
Closer to the top.
things you have, problems and big G's. Things I have, an ass wipe or ass wiped
or eyes wide.
eyes wide and one hash pipe.
Oof, good stuff. Let's move on to a far less interesting song, in my estimation. Simple Pages.
Ooh.
Our number 9 track. You guys
Where
were a
did I
little more
rate this?
charitable with this song.
I guess it's up there for me.
It's my bottom song.
Ooh.
This song I feel like is the pinnacle of like just so
Obnoxious.
straightforward. I was just gonna say so straightforward, so boring,
No, yeah.
so nothing to. It is quite literally nothing to write home about. Tyler, you're nodding. What are you with me on this?
Yeah. There are songs I find more offensively bland and repetitive on this album, but definitely with you. What do I
into that.
have? This song? Yeah, it's Simple Pages. Yeah.
This is number 7 for me.
Yeah.
Cool.
More editing for you, Tyler.
It's one of those songs, much like on Pinkerton, but Pinkerton executed this kind of emotional angle to a much more satisfying degree of this lyrical angle of him being just a real not good boyfriend. And he just doesn't elicit any sort of sympathy. It's not a very interesting situation. It's him.
It's not a perfect situation, certainly.
No, that's a much better situation. You get the image of, it's like midnight or something. There's a knock on the door. She opens it up, and he's there going like, please, like, please
All
date
of
me."
Weezer are at the door.
All four of them.
All the Weezers.
Yeah. And Pat's going, please date me.
Pat specifically.
That is Forever Alone.
Pat on this album cover. Well, he doesn't look that bad.
He's pretty
You know
respectable.
Yeah, Pat's doing it right. You know what's bothering me the most about this album cover? It's kind of the
How wide Brian's eyes are.
He's got his eyes wide, certainly.
I was gonna say Brian's shoulders. He's got those stupid.
Oh, the little tabs.
Yeah, it looks like it's some sort of military shirt or something. I guess it was 2001 though. Wait, is he wearing a button-up shirt underneath another button-up?
He is.
Could that be?
Or is he wearing a jacket over a red shirt? Okay, back to Simple Pages. I have not given. any
Mikey's wearing a
opinions.
tie.
Yeah,
What?
He is.
He is. And he's got the collar is like so big and so flared.
Okay, both Mikey and Pat look like they're wearing like shirts from the 70s.
I hope everyone is listening to this with the album art in front of them.
Please just look at that album art
It
because
is. Yeah, it's. I mean, like, Blue is bad, but it's more like these guys are nerds and like can't dress themselves. This is like you made this decision
this was a very intentional.
and now you have to live with it.
Yeah. It's really just, it's a reflection of the whole album. It's so intentional as a mission statement.
Yeah.
They're all standing there like kind of, Mikey especially, just glaring at the
Yeah,
camera.
they're looking. Yeah, it does. Compared to Weezer, where they're just kind of like staring blankly, with this one, they're really like, hey, you,
Very confrontational.
check out our tunes.
And Mikey, really, you have to be looking at
It's
this
troubling.
image
You have to look
Yeah.
at this image and think, he is not long for this band.
or this world.
Oh,
All
dear.
right, so back to Simple Pages.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you guys put it so low. I think it's a really good song. I think the intro is kind of boring, but it gets it
Make a strong case.
Oh, fuck you. It does what it needs to do. But then I think
You can say that about every single song.
I think it's got a great verse and chorus though. I think it follows that really simple like power chord thing and relies heavily on the melody though. I think the bridge is kind of ass, to be honest. Until like towards the end when it's like the oh baby backing vocals and then it busts into the solo, which is also a pretty simple solo. I think that I enjoy that part a lot. The lyrics and the melody are pretty unique, and I think it's a lot of fun too. And I love the outro to it, not only because the song ends, but because
That's why I love it too.
I love the way they've kind of got the backup vocals going like, give me some love, give me some love, give me some whatever. And then Rivers singing over it. This song was originally like in 2000, like right before the album came out. It was still titled as Gimme Some Love before they changed it to Simple Pages. I have a couple promotional CDs that have it titled as Gimme Some Love. Anyone else have thoughts on that song, or can we move on?
Yeah, I just disagree with everything that you said. I think the kind of background vocals right at the end are just like some of the basic pop maneuvers. I don't.
Oh, I never said they weren't. I just said I really liked it.
All right. Okay. Well, different strokes, but
Of course.
I just don't.
Don't see
Sugar,
it?
his use of sugar, hard rock on the radio, just all these
Yeah.
real references as if Weezer was a much more hardcore band than they are. And I feel like Weezer, kind of at their best, always has this like good balance of serious and goofy and sweet and sour and hard rocking and kind of chill out music. That they've got a good blend going on much better in other songs on this album. And it just completely falls flat for me.
So we'll move on to the next one. This is one of the ones that was a little controversial.
Ooh.
I'm looking at my list and I already know which one it's going to be and shooting myself for doing this.
It's Oh Girlfriend.
Oh, never mind. I take everything back.
Both Chaz and I had this quite low. Tyler, you have it at 4th on your list. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you like about it?
Yeah, I think this album at its best sounds very Beatle-like. A lot of songs.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Visceral reaction to that.
I did have a gut reaction.
Wow.
It's like, oh. But go on.
I'm speaking more to the early, I want to say like 1965-ish Beatles, where
Like Beatles 65, that album.
yeah, Beatles for Sale. They were really pumping them out, really, bare basics pop songs, and just the way the vocal melodies run, the way the chords, the way they arrange the chords, reminds me a lot of some very early Beatles songs.
Okay, can see
I think
that.
this is a very, not to put it on the same level as what is like a legendary album, but if this
was on Abbey Road.
I'll say I could almost
It
hear
would be the
George
best
singing this
song.
on Rubber Soul.
Oh,
Interesting take.
very
I think,
interesting. A little too interesting.
It's like the version of Don't Let Go with much more emotion.
That's
I
interesting.
think something they really struggle with on these songs is putting emotion into the lyrics that that Rivers is singing, and I think he mostly succeeds on this song. I think is the most emotional that he sounds in the whole album.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I think that's a good point. Chaz and I were talking about how it sounds a lot like Photograph. And I mean, we'll get to Photograph, but you did not have it as high as Oh Girlfriend. It's just the emotional resonance that sort of works for you. I will say it is also the longest song. It's 3 minutes 50, something like that. And there are only 3 songs on the whole album that are 3 minutes long. But yeah, so that's what you liked about it, is
It feels like he's actually heartbroken. So I think that shines through, and I'll dig that.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's a better song than I maybe gave it credit for.
Yeah, I would agree with what you just said there as well, Chris. I mean, I don't think any album or song on this album is bad. I think every song on this album is pretty good, actually, but I did rank it pretty low. I would definitely agree. I had it written down that I think it's probably the most emotional song on the album as well. I think the lyrics are great. Obviously, the verse and stuff like that. I think the bridge is really cool too. Something interesting, and I'm pretty sure it's about this song. I could be wrong about the two songs, so everything I'm saying could be completely irrelevant. But I'm pretty sure the girl in Do You Want to Get High is the same girl that this song is about.
Interesting.
I think that's an interesting fact.
Taking pills.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Is that why you think that, or is there more to support?
No, I read it somewhere a while ago.
okay.
I'm not. That wasn't just my opinion.
Okay, all right. Weezer is a very interesting band in that they have a long history of saying completely contradictory things in a wide variety of interviews.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything. I'm just saying there's a lot of little tidbits like this that they have strewn all over.
Yeah.
You know,
They're like the Tanya Harding of bands. I just saw I, Tanya last night. Pretty good.
Oh, is this the section where Chris talks about the movies he saw?
Do you want to do movie reviews?
Let's do movie reviews.
Look at all those movie stars, they're all so beautiful and clean.
Yeah, so great supporting cast performances. Sebastian Stan as Jeff was
Ooh.
great.
Is he allowed to be in other non-Marvel
I
movies?
know. Someone
Did he
said to me
sneak out and star in that movie?
out of the studio. Someone said to me after the fact that they thought that Sebastian Stan was the name of his character from the Marvel universe, which gave me a chuckle. Yeah, pretty good film. I thought Margot Robbie's performance was a little overrated. The movie as a whole, it's a little too long. But
Big
overall,
problem with movies these days.
yeah, it's true.
Get an editor.
It's true. But overall, pretty good flick. Strong supporting performances. Allison Janney,
Ooh,
she'll be up for the. I
What
believe
an
she is up
actress.
for the Oscar. Great
might see it-
performance
might see it just for her.
as Tanya Harding's mom. But yeah, that's my review.
the movie I watched recently was Thor Ragnarok, which
yeah.
I really put off because a lot of people, it feels like every Marvel movie that comes out, people go, no, this is the one that isn't stale and
I saw
repetitive.
you mention this. Did you?
I
you
posted
said-
about this
Didn't
on-
you say that people were telling you it was bad?
3 separate friends said that they went and watched it in theaters and did not like it.
Wow, that was
And
surprising to me.
having seen it now, I'm amazed because that is the Marvel movie for me with the most personality, the most jokes that land, jokes of the widest variety. So many Marvel jokes are just one person being sarcastic to another, and there's such people are sarcastic in this one, but there's so many more jokes and so many characters being genuine and funny and having personality, and it's a tight 2 hours.
So it's a treat.
Yeah, it's great when the movie's the plot is just rolling.
Have you seen any other of Taika Waititi's movies?
I saw What We Do in the Shadows, which
You like
I
that
loved.
one?
Yeah.
Yeah, strongly recommend. And for you and anyone who's listening to this, Hunt for the Wilder People.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic movie. The Jeff Goldblum's
Ooh.
no, Jeff Goldblum's not in it. Sorry to get your hopes up. I'm so sorry. Jeff Goldblum's like henchman from the movie. She plays a social worker. I know. It's
Wow.
great. It's really
That sentence was a huge tease.
it's really great. You should watch it. We should watch it at some time. Anyways,
Have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
I haven't. I've heard good things.
That's a real good one.
That was our
was
movie
movie
corner.
reviews?
Chaz, you didn't have anything to add to movie corner, did you?
No. Something interesting that I think about it personally is especially the guitar solo, even though it's the same as every other solo on the album where it just follows the melody. I think this one's almost different. Like you can almost feel like emotion in the guitar. I don't. Oh. I thought Chris was doing one of his famous reactions, being like, "Oh, what are you doing?"
no, I
But he was to do reactions that the
wasn't-
whole room stopped
Hey,
for,
hold
but
on.
it was just a yawn.
He
I
was
wasn't
yawning.
reacting. I was tilting my head away from the mic so that you wouldn't hear me yawn, and then everyone called attention to it.
I moved my mouth away from the microphone.
Exactly. I was
breathe.
moving the mic away from my mouth to breathe in. Because what is a yawn but a big inhale?
That's exactly what it is, Chris.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Let's
Well,
move on.
girlfriend, I find it interesting that I just find it interesting that we all that you guys disliked it so much more.
No, I
and
think-
Don't
we
say
did.
dislike.
I think I did come around to your way of thinking on it. I mean, I don't know if it's in my top 4, but I think it's really good.
on this album, I think they really struggle to seem sad or mad or even super happy. It's
Yeah.
very curt, very to the point. But on this song, I think they poked through that and they actually got to me.
Okay. Well, we'll move on. The next song, I think this might be the one that you were afraid of, Chaz, because you had it dead last, and we both had it in a more favorable position. Glorious Day.
Oh.
The problem for me with this album is just I love every song on it. It's so hard for me to rank them. I don't know why I put this one so low. Like, well, we took a break a minute ago. Chris just put on Glorious Day for a second, and I was like, oh, I fucked up. But
Like me with a pink triangle.
yeah,
Last
sure, we
episode.
can say that.
Yeah, you're dumb.
I think it's interesting because it's not a slow song like Oh Girlfriend, but I feel like it's at a slower tempo. I could be completely wrong. It just feels a little slower. Mm-hmm. I think the intro is cool. I like even though I think the lyrics are kind of boring, I like a lot of like the vocal bits, like hey, 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 hey. You know that part.
Sure.
I do.
But I don't know, that part. I don't know. I think it's a really great song, even though I ranked it so low. So low, I mean the last song.
As low as you possibly
I
can.
like Hash Pipe more than this song.
I
And
don't.
you said
See, that's
that.
that.
It's
see, I
on
said
paper.
that. It's on paper that I said that. I think I like this song more than any other song we've been through so far.
Kind of like what you were saying about Oh Girlfriend. It executes on having a little bit of emotion to it, a little bit of irony. We like that in our Weezer.
Of course.
A little bit of, yeah, I feel like it executes that well enough. Stop it. Chad's now opening up a bootleg Weezer CD that he recently acquired.
It's a great CD.
Cool. We'll tell everyone about it later.
I'll plug it in the
Plug section.
the plug section. I'll say, go and find yourself a copy of this. And I'll say, oh, wait, I bought the only one I've ever seen. So
You just wobbled your head out of smugness.
I'm very smug right now.
And it's not a notable song, I might say. Do you
I
have anything
think
more to
it's-
add about it?
I think it's more notable.
It's maybe notable is not the right word. It doesn't do a lot to like Hash Pipe. Hash Pipe isn't a great song, but it does a lot to distinguish itself.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think this song does a ton. Like it is very like I feel middle of the road on this album.
I like the use of cynicism. The song comes off as very cynical to me. And on his other, forays on this album into the topic of love, I feel like he is kind of ignoring the feeling in the back of his head. And in this song, it comes to the front. Might be putting a bit more depth into this album than exists. But
Yeah.
this is, I feel, a case of really good vocals where he goes, glorious children on my mind, glorious wastings of my time.
Oh, you know
Glorious
what? I do
plans
like
we
that.
make up, forcing things in line. To me, I really like that because it's so cynical, being super fed up with love and going, hey, you know what? We're all just going through the motions. We're all doing what we just expect ourselves to do, not what we really want to do.
The emotions.
Yeah,
Thanks, you guys.
I think
Stop playing with your CD.
I think that part that Tyler just brought up with the lyric part, I do enjoy that. That wasn't the part I was talking about when I say the lyrics are kind of iffy. I'm more so talking about the verse lyrics. Even though I really like the way they're sung. I think it's rather fun.
They're pretty basic.
Yeah, they're like kind of rock and dance or whatever, like da 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 da.
I take my chance, gonna rock and dance, gonna hit the ground with a brand new sound, looking for romance.
Really,
Yeah, very
Really?
basic.
really. They almost seem like filler lyrics that you'd write just to kind of get the melody in your head, and then you'd kind of tune them up or replace them.
That's a great way to put it. That's how I feel
Filler
about
lyrics,
a lot
yeah.
of lyrics on this album.
No, I would definitely agree with that.
This is my favorite intro of all the songs on this album, I'm gonna say. Most of the other songs you just kind of are dropped into
Yeah.
it. And they all,
That's what I was
even some of
thinking.
the better songs, they just
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
And this one, there's the two guitars going, which reminds me of
I
that little
really like
interlude
that.
going into Falling For You.
Yeah.
Not that it's as good as Falling For You, just the fact that it's got the two lines going at once. It's like, hey, you're stretching a little bit of your musical ability.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying. I think that's the
You're
main
doing
problem.
something.
I think that's my main problem with this album is that they play it so safe that it feels like they're not trying.
Yeah.
Especially with some of these hooks, it feels like a lot of wasted potential.
Really, see, actually, you know what? I like a lot of the verses on this album more than I like the choruses. I think.
Yeah, I would argue probably the worst choruses of any of their albums.
But some of the best verses.
Yeah, there's some. Sure. Okay. There's some verses of note. We'll move on. The next song we have here is a song that I really like. Knock Down, Drag Out. Knock Down and Drag Out, both hyphenated. Interesting.
I think something interesting about this song is, well, the last song had debatably the best intro on the whole album. I think this one is by far the worst. Potentially worse than Hash Pipe. The intro, it's like 2 notes. I don't know. They're like the least appealing notes, I think.
Down, 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 down.
Down, 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 down. Super basic. It's not good.
Yeah, there's just not that much in this song.
Yeah, well, I had it ranked pretty highly because I do agree that there's not much in this song. I feel like a lot of the sort of middle songs, there's not much to say about them. Like, they're not very interesting songs, but I feel like of the sort of middle of the pack songs, that this one executes the formula the best. Like, I think this is about as good as, because I would say Don't Let Go is the one where it's like, it doesn't deviate from the formula. It's not an interesting song, but it's well executed. And so I think that this is pretty much just one step below Don't Let Go in terms of executing it in an interesting way.
That's actually really interesting, because I said this is pretty much the best example of just like an album track off this album. It's the most like Green Album feeling song, I think. Although when you say Don't Let Go,
that would be it for me. But
I think I see what you're saying with Don't Let Go, but I feel like Don't Let Go is even more basic. This one has a little more flair to it, which I think the Green Album has a little more flair than we've been giving it. In some ways.
it? Does it though?
Hey, maybe not. We just finished ripping on the intro for a minute, but I think the verse and chorus bits, like, melody is great. I think it's another one of those songs that just follows the basic power chords and relies heavily on the melody, which is completely fine because I think it's super catchy. But I think it's a short and simple and fun song.
Yeah, those are 3 good adjectives for it. I'd say that's how I would describe it as well.
I think for me, this is one of the blandest songs. Like, it doesn't leave a bad taste in my mouth like Photograph or Hash Pipe. It doesn't.
Photograph? What are
mean,
you
we'll
talking?
We'll talk about Photograph.
I have stuff to say about Photograph.
Okay.
But yeah, it doesn't. I'm not there going, oh, come on. I'm not there going, hey, he sounds like a douche. It's just Knock Down, Drag Out. I hear it, it ends, and I walk away with absolutely no part of me has changed from having heard that song.
That's fair.
I think there is a melody. I can barely remember what it was.
I can barely remember it. Heard this album 100 times.
It is true that this song could be deleted from existence, and it wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
I like the lyrics.
I have one note.
As I said, I like it. I think it's a fine song.
I think it's a fine song. Where did I even have this on my list? I feel like I had it at like number 6.
That is exactly correct.
Wow, look at me. I remember the list I put together half an hour ago. Or more than half an hour into this.
Yeah, for me, it's peak bland Weezer.
Yeah, it is Bleezer.
Okay.
For our next 2 songs, we actually have a tie.
Another one of our infamous ties.
Trademark ties. So, as
Has there
usual.
been a tie on all of them so far then?
Yes, there has been.
Yes.
There was the one tie on Pinkerton that I did not realize because I did not add the numbers correctly.
3 single-digit numbers.
Yes, famously. As usual, we'll have a little showdown between these 2 songs. I think I know which one's going to win. We'll go in alphabetical order, if I can remember what order the alphabet is in. Okay, so the first song...
Oh, boy.
The first song in our tie for the 4-5 spot is Photograph. And this song was massively brought down by one person, and it was Tyler. Tyler, talk to me. Why'd you have this song as the second worst on the album?
To me, it feels like it was purposefully designed to annoy me. I don't like just name an ingredient, and it's really trying
Flour.
to be... Can't have it. For me, just like any... I can tell that they were trying to construct it to be unique and catchy. It's the second song on the album, which is usually where you put like one of the heavier hitting singles. I don't like the hand claps. I don't like the ooh, ooh. I don't like the
I'm dancing to it right now just thinking about it.
something about My Chemical Makeup or My Chemical Romance just it's me
you.
the wrong. Put that in before you guys got it. I don't like the chorus. It's in the photograph.
It's in the photograph
It's in the
of
photograph
love.
of love.
That makes sense.
It's in the photograph of love.
It's in the photograph.
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 It's in the photograph of love.
It's in the photograph.
Oh boy. If only we were dead.
It's a good thing that Tyler doesn't have to be at work soon, so we can waste as much time as we want on this bit.
Chaz, hit me. Tell me about.
Oh, my thoughts on Photograph?
I'm a photo head as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a lot written about this song, even though I had it ranked pretty high. I put it as number 4, even though a lot of me wanted to say it was number 3, but I kind of changed it last minute. It's super simple. I think, like, that part that's like, and though my heart will break, it's more than I can take, I can never let it go.
One bump in my head, I love it.
That part is so catchy. That part just makes me it puts the biggest smile on my face absolutely every single time I hear it. I don't know, the kind of the oh baby backing vocals, they feel fairly dated. I'm not necessarily saying that as a bad thing, because I still enjoy them. I'm glad they're in the song, but they do feel like very, like, they didn't age as well. I think there's
Definitely going from almost like a 50s or Motown type.
Oh,
thing.
that's interesting.
that's not the take I had on them.
Didn't quite hit it.
Okay.
Lean into the mic to emphasize. No, in an album that has a lot of songs that kind of blend together and don't do much to differentiate themselves, I think this song does that. I like the intro. I like the guitar thingy it does. I will say I hate when songs end with applause.
Yeah,
'cause it's like-
that is not good.
I hate it. It's because
It's
it's
not
like you're giving
even-
yourself a round of applause for
That's
doing the song.
Exactly what they're doing, and it's not even like a faux live, like Benny and the Jets kind of. This is a
Yeah,
no.
it's like
they
someone else
literally
is
just like,
no,
hey,
we're
isn't our
clapping
song great?
for ourselves?
You know what song really ruins it with the kind of fake audience sound in it? Back to You by Coconut Records, I think. Which I think is actually a song
Which I'll
that-
have to play a few seconds of right here so that we all know what we're talking
This is a
about.
deep dive. Isn't Coconut Records Jason Schwartzman?
Yeah. It was in Scott Pilgrim versus the World and
And that one TV show?
Freaks and Geeks.
Is it called Bored to Death? I can never remember the name of this. It's with Ted Danson. Great show. Anyways, I'll look into that. You keep talking about Photograph.
Well, I was just going to say an interesting part about that one Coconut Records song
right.
is that although, yeah, it kind of kills it with that thing, but that song also sounds like like an early like Blue album song. So I think if you are itching for more Blue album sounding stuff, I would give Back to You by Coconut Records a listen.
Interesting. I was right. It is called Bored to Death. Jason Schwartzman, also the drummer for Phantom Planet.
Really?
Best known for the theme to the OC.
I have a Phantom Planet live DVD somewhere in this room.
Do they play California?
Yes, they do.
Good.
Wow, I did not know he was in that. I can kind of
He's a busy
see
guy.
I could kind of see a lot of ties between Coconut Records and Phantom Planet. That makes a lot of sense.
But yeah,
Moving on.
Photograph,
Yeah.
great song.
Great song.
Some people don't feel the same.
Fuck
I-
Tyler and everything he loves.
I understand where you're coming from, but I don't agree. The other song on here, not a particularly highly rated song, except by one person named Chaz, Smile.
Smile is great.
Tell me more.
I'm probably not going to argue with you too much. I think Photograph will win this. And I did have Photograph in my third place position as well, but I switched it last minute with Smile. I think it's another super simple song, even though It's a little slower. I think it's definitely one of the more emotional songs on the CD, maybe aside from Oh Girlfriend, maybe Island in the Sun. There's that part where it's like, I can't be gone. Da, da, you know,
Darling.
yeah, that part. But I think that's one of the better moments on the album. I think that part is great. I think the lyrics are great. I think the instrumentation is fairly boring again. Same with the solo. I don't know. I really like the melody of this one and kind of how like sort of emotional it is. I don't know. The melody is great.
Okay. Tyler, do you have any thoughts on this this track?
I'm going to pose a question to the group.
Yes.
What does he mean by "I don't want to break your fine face"?
He doesn't want to make her frown
Yeah.
because he likes how she's smiling.
Yeah, doesn't want to
Okay.
make her sad. That song's about smiling.
Oh, wait.
The song's about smiling, Tyler.
Okay, yeah.
Call you Smiler
I
from now
don't.
on. You didn't like that.
Yeah, just I don't like his choice of words. I don't like the use of the wah wah effect. It's the shortest, most forgettable guitar solo. It's like one bar. I was looking
I'll
for
agree
things
with
that I
that.
could like about this song, and we all said it right at the end. I like how the guitar fades out.
Yeah. The fade out is great.
Love a good fade out.
There's some good distortion in there, and you get a nice bubbling stew going to a flat surface. But other than that, there's just.
Wow, you're really painting a word picture.
Like,
Yeah,
he's comes off as very demanding, almost
does this one
abusive
fade out?
again.
Does this one fade out?
Who can say?
I thought we all said that about Island in the Sun.
We did also.
Oh, did we? Oh,
I think it's not particularly great. I think the lyrics are quite bad because I don't want to break your fine face. I can't take the way you want to wrap me up inside your smile.
Yeah.
And then here's another one. I'm just reading through them and I can't stop. Open your heart and let the good stuff out. Water me, girl, and let me ease the drought. Because you wanted some love, I'll make it happen.
Like the
Love those
definition
lyrics.
of placeholder lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at me, girl. Get
Because-
up off your shelf.
Because you wanted some love, I'll make it happen. is way up there.
Non sequitur.
Yeah. Like, okay.
All right.
We've said our piece. It's time for the showdown. Photograph
Call in
or
now.
smile. Yeah, everyone call into our landline number. The phones are standing by. We have operators.
Do you want to view green as the start of a descent into?
Do you want to view green? Sorry, what?
Do you want to view the Green Album as a descent into some really bad, obnoxious pop, or do you view it as more of a note in their history? And I think if you want to view it as a, like a break, something like Green is just something that washes down. You listen to it, you walk away, your life is exactly the same. Then I would say Smile. If you want to view Green as like, oh, this is where stuff really starts going downhill, then I would say
Okay, but we need a verdict.
Smile's better.
Okay.
I ranked Smile as better on my list, but I almost have a hard time saying Smile is better than Photograph. Either objectively or subjectively, to me personally, it's hard to pick either one. I mean, I did. I picked Smile, so I wrestled with that a lot, as well as wrestling for the number one position, or the number one
Wrestling
and
with
two.
Jimmy.
Yeah, that I wrestled with. Stop. See, I wanted to say Smile for me, but I don't think that this song should be.
But you don't want Smile to win.
I want the overall list to be Photograph above Smile, even though I want Smile. But you see, Tyler kind of screwed me over by saying Smile. So I could have.
You can't say
No,
Smile.
I
You can't
can't say
agree with
Smile.
Unless
me.
you love it. Unless you love it so much that you want it to be in the top 4.
Okay. Maybe I'll say.
You're really agonizing over that.
I am. I think as a whole, I think something that reflects probably most people's opinion would be Photograph as a better song.
People have spoken.
But
Oh, I was gonna say, so I mean, for my personal list, I would put Smile above Photograph, but
so
I
say
can
Smile.
Yeah.
but I feel like that's not very representative of like
This
anything.
is about your
This is
opinions.
about us
All right.
three, and
Say Smile then.
Okay. And I will say Photograph, but I will take that L.
I'm very surprised that Smile beat out Photograph.
Me too.
Like,
I could see it.
I know you can. So, congratulations to Smile. It'll take the top spot when we give our final ranking. not the top spot, of course, but we will now
Just
move on.
argued it all the way up to number one.
Yeah, you know, now that I think about it, it's the best song ever. We're moving on. We're in the big leagues now, I'd say. Number 3 is one of Chaz's favorites, the opener to the album, "Don't Let Go."
Don't let go.
Ooh, whoa, whoa.
I really like the way it opens the album. It's super catchy. I think the ooh-oh-ohs and the intro sounds super like monotone and almost like flat. I just start with talking about how terrible the beginning is, despite loving the song. I think the lyrics are great. They're so much fun, even though there's not too much depth to them. Mm-hmm. I want to say the pre-chorus part is the really good part, like the
Confrontations in my mind.
Oh, was that what we were gonna say? The pre-chorus was. This is one of those. I have no idea.
But if there comes a day.
Yeah, I was
okay.
with. But if there comes a day, that part. I think that part is so good. The confrontations in my mind, I think, is probably the worst part of the song. Obviously, a super lackluster solo, but what song on this album like doesn't have one? They have some great backing vocals on this song as well. Obviously, nothing too interesting with the instrumentation, like 90% of the songs on this album. But I still think it's like a very catchy song, and it just gets you amped up for the album.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said before, I think it's the best of the sort of rote songs on the album. I do agree with you about the ooh-oh-ohs at the start of the song. They sound like bored.
Yeah.
Like, or tired or something. Like, it is very weird. I wonder if they were doing that intentionally or if it's like a sort of like a bit they're doing. I think it's a really fun song. I like the vocals. I like the harmonies. I think the harmonies very much like, it's hard to put my finger on sort of the character of the vocal harmonies in this, but they do feel distinct from Blue and Pinkerton. And I feel like these style of harmonies are a style that they sort of come back to a lot, with sort of River singing the melody and then Brian is singing a sort of, I don't know if it's a lower third. That's what it kind of sounds like. Like, I feel like this is the style that they have used for their harmonies for the rest of their discography. Like Pinkerton, they were sort of trying more intricate, interesting harmony. Like they a lot of times they would have like Brian on the low harmony, just like singing one note, which I thought was interesting.
Especially in, what was that, Pink Triangle?
Or I was thinking of Across the Sea.
Oh, maybe.
This is one of those songs right in the middle. The 3 songs for me that I have trouble even remembering what they sound like, that really just leave no impression on me, are Don't Let Go, Smile, and Knock Down, Drag Out. Of all those 3, Don't Let Go stands out the most for me, and it seems like it's a moderately confident mission statement. Like, we're back.
Yeah.
Track number 1, This Is Us. We're kind of loud. We're kind of rocking. Kind of looking back on it, one
We're
of the
here
more
to kick butt.
yeah. I find those harmonies very interesting.
And that's it.
only kind of interesting, I guess, because I'm not sitting around going, "Oh man, how did they do that?" But like,
Yeah, but it's like it's fun. It
it's
adds a little spice.
Something else while we're talking about kind of harmonies and backing vocals is like, this is the only album with Mikey Welsh on it. So like, you get some unique stuff on this album because of him being on there. It's like with some of the earlier Blue album tracks, like I guess Jamie was released officially, but up until like 2004, like this was the first time you'd ever really had someone that was just like kind of a one album person on it or something. But with like the Blue Album Deluxe and Jamie, like you had some of like
Crop Top.
Yeah, Crop Top, Jason Cropper backing vocals in it, and some of his guitar work, which I think is interesting. I mean, it's definitely more interesting to have a guitarist adding their own unique thing than it is to have a bassist, especially, say, in the Green Album era, because this is, like, I really don't think they gave Mikey too much of a time to shine on this, just based off, like, the way the songs were written. Like,
Yeah.
just some
a lot
very
of one note.
Yeah, very simple bass stuff. Whereas, like, you know, Matt Sharp really got to do a lot of cool bass stuff on Pinkerton.
a lot of cool vocal stuff.
And
too.
yeah, definitely some cool vocal stuff on Pinkerton. It would have been cool if Mikey was included on an album where they did like more interesting and unique stuff to kind of see what kind of flavor he could have brought to the band.
Can you imagine if they like assigned him falsetto parts like with Matt?
That would be a lot of
I
fun.
truly can't imagine that.
I think it's a lot more interesting if you watch some of their live performances on YouTube and kind of see Mikey doing it. A lot of their shows from like 2000 in Japan, like they are crazy. Like especially when they're playing some more like Pinkerton stuff. Like there's a performance you can see of "Tired of Sex" with Mikey playing them, and I think it's just I think it's a great performance by the band.
Let's talk about that.
This is one of the primary songs where it's very middle of the road, not super distinguishing, but a good song. We're at number 2 now, so right up there. This is a very interesting number 2 song. I would not have expected it just looking at the track list before we listened to it.
I have no idea what it's going to
I
be.
think I know.
I had it at number 2. Tyler also had it at number 2.
I know which one it is.
It's Crab.
Oh,
If
right.
you wanna.
Crab if you yeah.
At the booty.
What a great song.
Yeah, I think this is way up there in terms of interesting songs on the album.
Yeah, I think so. I think something interesting about this song is like a lot of like hardcore Weezer fans really hate this song.
Really?
There's like kind of an ongoing joke about this song.
About how
that
they
it's
don't
just
like it?
Like a lot of like people have said like it's debatably like one of the worst Weezer songs.
Really?
Like up there with like Can't Stop Partying or like Love Is the Answer or something like that.
Why? Because the lyrics?
I have no idea why. I really like this song though.
Yeah.
Like
Everything about this song is just a cut above the other, all of the other songs that
the
we talked
intro
about.
on this song is really cool. Like I remember the first time I ever heard this song, it just had me hooked.
Yeah. And it does, it very much like makes its case very early for being a good song. Tyler, you've never listened to Maladroit, have you?
No.
I think this song and Hash Pipe are maybe the closest
Maladroit.
to Maladroit, yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading earlier that he wrote Hash Pipe and Dope Nose in the same night.
I can really, really, really see
Yeah,
that.
totally. It is in the same vein as Hash Pipe. It doesn't quite sound like everything else on the album, but unlike Hash Pipe, it's a good song.
Yeah.
So I think it's elevated in that regard.
I think something interesting to note about like you bringing up Maladroit, a lot of the demos for Maladroit, like a lot of the stuff was recorded before this album like even came out. Like a lot of demos, like I believe like Burnt Jam and Keep Fishin', maybe Take Control. There was a number of them that were like they did demos of in like 2000 or 2001. A lot of the songs off of Maladroit, there's demos of like Mikey playing on them and doing backing vocals and stuff like that. So actually, there's some really cool versions where you kind of do get to see Mikey doing some more interesting stuff.
Stop showing us the CD.
That CD does have a demo of Burnt Jam on it, though, and it is from 2001, so
Yeah.
pretty cool. But we'll wait for plugs for that.
Yeah, like we've said this about certain other songs in this album before. They really struggle to. This is a great time to peel tape off of things.
All right, let's just keep going.
Let's kill ourselves.
Let's do it.
Tyler, your
I
thoughts
think
on
I
this?
would just kill myself.
I would kill myself.
Hey, stop referencing I, Tanya, when
they
you haven't
really
seen it.
rarely cut through with genuine emotion, and he really does in this song. Rivers can be such an emotional singer if he really applies himself, and
He's
he
got
does.
snarl.
Yeah, and this song in the end is just about sexual frustration, which
Wait, the song In the End? By Linkin Park? R.I.P.
Also, R.I.P. Mikey Welsh.
who predicted his
he
own
dead?
death.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that.
Did you not know the whole?
You kept mentioning it. You kept mentioning it. R.I.P. And I was like, good one. But now,
now
this
you
is-
get.
now this is all too real.
Did you want to tell this story?
Oh, yeah, like Mikey Welsh. So he was kind of kicked out of the band for sort of substance abuse. I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure the reasons.
I was
Being
reading
a
about
general basket case.
In kind of mid-late
Green Day
2001.
special.
Nice. But so I believe it was in 2011. At one point, he posts on his Twitter, had a dream that like I died of a like cardiac arrest or a heart attack or something in my sleep in
God.
Chicago next weekend. Better start planning my will. And then like right after, he comments on, sorry, meant 2 weeks from now. And then like 2 weeks from that date,
He died.
dies
died.
from like a drug-induced heart attack in his sleep or something.
Oh
Quote,
my gosh.
dreamt I died in Chicago next weekend. In brackets, heart attack in my sleep, need to write my will today. And then later tweet is correction the week after next. And that is exactly what happened.
That is so crazy.
Though, I
There's-
mean,
there's
for
a-
someone who was very into the drugs and hardcore rock,
Into the drugs.
very
Into the
much
drugs.
into the drugs.
There's a great picture. It's a black and white photo from like 2000. It's such a great picture. It's Mikey and Rivers like standing next to each other, like behind like a venue they're at or something, like, or a festival or whatever. And, like, Mikey's got his arm around Rivers, and Rivers is holding a water bottle, and Mikey's got a beer and a dart and like the same hand or something.
Wow.
But fun conspiracy theory: Scott Schreiner killed Mikey Welsh.
Oh, that is fun. That's too bad though. It seems like he went through some difficult times. So truly rip.
Yeah.
But
What were we saying? Yeah. Crab is... No, I would say of all the other songs, they're merely from bleh to bleh. And this one really actually is a good song that I, elect to listen to on days where I don't feel obligated to listen to the Green Album because we're about to talk about it.
Yeah, this is a great song.
yeah, this is it. The big one. I think we all know what it's going to be. I was very surprised that this was a unanimous number one.
I was as well.
But we have Island in the Sun. Now, I can understand, I think for both of us, Chaz, the reason that we kind of are surprised that it's number one because it might be too obvious of a pick.
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
for sure. I think that would be like,
Is that the Say It Ain't So of this album?
I was gonna say the Buddy Holly.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that's a good comparison.
Yeah,
Because was it the first or the second single?
second single. Yeah.
Yes. And it
I
was...
love how we didn't even mention that Photograph was the third single off the album.
Yeah, well, there wasn't even like a
talk about that.
hardcore directed video of it. Like, I feel
There
like it
was
was
a
kind
video.
of a... There was, but it
yeah,
was just
Scott's
like...
first appearance with Weezer.
It was like tour footage, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But
Done
it
by
wasn't-
Carl Koch.
There wasn't a lot to note about it being a
Yeah.
single. But this was a bit of a crossover for them. It's not like the other songs. It's maybe even more poppy.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
I was almost gonna say like it's like, oh, Weezer went like pop, and then
Yeah.
like, but like in the context of the rest of the album, it's just like Weezer went pop.
Yeah,
It's a breath of fresh air. In this
Yeah.
album.
It does fit on the album, but it is, like you said, a breath of fresh air. A big part of that is the guitar line.
Which, just to refresh your memory,
oh, here we go.
Can't wait to hear you screw this up and look like an idiot.
Hit it, baby.
Okay,
Nice.
yeah,
It's not power chords, and it's not just like driving
just very
along
pretty.
like da 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 da. It's
Ooh, I like that.
and I can keep going, and I do have a very big lung.
You have a big lung.
I have one giant lung. It's kind of lopes along. It's got a nice little groove to it. It makes you shimmy a little. Okay, that's quite enough from you. Yeah, it's very nice.
It's so
It's a
pretty.
nice song. Yeah, it's
To
a
me,
pretty
that's
song.
the number one thought in my head as I listen to it. It's just, this is just so pretty. And every new element that they add to the song, I'm like, oh, that's pretty.
yeah. Even I feel like even the part where it kind of goes hard and they do bring out the power chords, like the "We'll Run Away Together." It gets hard, right? But it doesn't go in like a hash pipe direction of hard. It kind of goes in like it's still like
Still very sweet.
very sweet melodic vocal melody over top of like the hardness. And I think it could have been done either hard or like not with like the distortion and power chords. And I don't think either way would necessarily be better than the other, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At least.
My opinion, it's the best guitar solo. Even though it is still following the vocal line, it
It's
is.
got the best melody out of all.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, he just plays it. It is just following that line, but it does it with its own little flair. Just like, there's not much to say about the song. It's just that every ingredient is just so pretty.
Yeah.
And ends up
Yeah.
being
It's
It's
so.
a very
They really hit the nail on the head with this song when it comes to like
Very-
writing a very catchy pop song. It's like
So
like you-
early 2000s, just like, just chill out, man.
This
It's
is
all
like
good.
this is one of those songs. The first time I ever had put on the Green album,
feels like the first time. It's also a song. Just saying.
I'll finish my thing though. So the first time I ever put on the Green album, just listened to it all the way through. This was when I was first getting into Weezer, and I didn't really know a lot of their material that well. But when this song came on, like I instantly knew the song. I'm like, oh, I had no idea this was Weezer. Like this has been a song that like has been like just
Lodged in your brain.
lodged in my brain for my whole life. I don't remember the first time I heard it. It's just something that seems like it's always been in my head, like
Yeah.
a riff I've always known. And I feel like every time I put this on for someone who doesn't know Weezer or anything about it, they're just like, oh, it's this song.
song.
Like, I love this song.
Yeah, it wasn't the biggest hit off this album either, but I do feel like
It has aged very well into a Weezer hit.
yeah, and it has a lot of crossover.
It is their most played song on Spotify.
Really, that's interesting.
I
Yeah.
could see that.
It also it evokes the Blue album a little bit. I mean, the guitar tone, like usually the thing.
How's the fire engine going that way? The fire station is like right there.
Usually the thing
Fire station's on fire.
what you associate with Blue album is like distorted guitar tone mixed with sort of soft acoustic, and this is like soft acoustic plus super clean guitar tone, but it does a little bit evoke the Blue album of sort of that mix of like sweet, and then you got the salty of the distorted guitar, the heavier elements. So yeah, it's like a salted caramel.
Right at the end with that little outro where he sings "We'll Never Feel Bad Anymore."
Yeah.
And he sings that he hits this part of his register that he doesn't often hit, and he does, and he just hits it super well. And it's like, this is just super nice and pretty, and just nothing
Yeah.
out of place, and it's just a nice, neat, tidy, pretty song.
Yeah, great harmonies too.
Yeah.
Not just following like we were talking about a little earlier, like the very like rote kind of hitting the same harmony. It does have some interesting parts, especially I love on the "We'll Never Feel Bad Anymore."
Yeah.
Has a great harmony on it.
I love it when it goes from the "we'll never feel bad anymore" and it kind of holds that, and then it goes right back into the
Yeah.
hip. Oh, that's easily one of my favorite parts of this song.
Yeah, just
I
a
think
great song.
The bass line too in this song, I think, like
It has a little like
yeah, and the
moving.
intro kind of slides in. Then yeah, the bass line is great. This is definitely one of those points where it's like,
everything coalesces very well.
yeah, it doesn't just feel like everything's slapped together, like two guitars playing the same thing, a bass just hitting the root note of the power chords and the drums just wailing on it. Like, kind of everything really works together.
They're stretching their wings a bit
Especially
Yeah.
with that like da 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 da
Oh,
da
yeah.
da da da.
Yeah.
That part is almost, it's very similar to kind of the guitar bit they do in the pre-chorus to Buddy Holly. Like it's
Interesting.
played very similarly. Tyler, I see some reactions. What are
Trying to think of what that is.
Why are you, miming it as if you're
miming
playing
it.
a guitar?
I was hoping someone else would take over there, and Tyler could just look at my fingers.
But
and be like,
what-
oh, right, that's what it sounds.
So you were talking to me specifically. What part are you talking about though?
Are you talking about in Buddy Holly or
Yes,
in
in Buddy Holly.
Oh, in the pre-chorus where
Oh,
But you know I'm yours.
just it feels like it was made with care on an album where some of it feels like they were just like,
Most
I
of
got
it
a
is.
song, let's do it. That's
despite
my
this
Rivers Cuomo
having
impression.
so many
Hey,
songs
Rick.
written for it,
Yeah.
like they had
yeah,
so many songs.
120 songs apparently, or more.
This album is more interesting as a spot in Weezer's career rather than the
Exactly.
songs themselves.
I
being
think I would agree.
very interesting songs.
I would agree to some extent, but disagree in other ways. I understand that this is a very basic, simple, like lackluster album, and it's all sounds the same. But I think it's one of the most like consistent Weezer albums there is. I think.
That's fair.
Whereas, Pinkerton, there are some songs I definitely like less than other ones, like Hash Pipe, or like Get You, or essentially Hash Pipe is the Get You of this album. But Get You and Butterfly, I would kind of put lower on my list for Pinkerton. But this album here, there's not really any songs that I don't like on it. I think I love every song on this album. I don't think its highs are as high as
Anything.
Blue or Pinkerton, but I think overall it's a very solid album, and for it only being 28 minutes, you can't go wrong with the Green Album, guys.
Yeah, and something that we really haven't mentioned at all up to this point is that this is one of their best-selling albums. This album did great.
It was a hit, and
it was huge.
It went platinum within a year.
Yeah, it's their quickest selling album. From a critical perspective, it was well received. People basically said the same thing that we said, which was,
It's all right.
yeah, exactly. It's not creative. It won't blow your socks off. It's not like the craziest album, but
it's good.
But it's good. It's tight, and sort of they're sort of the best in their field at delivering this specific kind of sound.
To me, the statement of Green is very much, we're back in business. We're making songs again.
Yeah.
It feels like a very studio album where they're like, we're not screwing around. Let's go to the studio and let's just get all these songs done.
Yeah,
like,
Rick in here.
We're
Rick's
professional
press
musicians
record.
now. We've recorded a number of things. Now we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a very especially
Formulaic.
yeah. And
well,
especially
the third album is always difficult for most bands, I feel, too, because the first album is always the one that everyone has been like stewing on for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
The second album is where they have to prove themselves and see if they're more than just a one-hit wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you get to a third album, it's really like, okay, like, what are you guys here to stick around? What are you guys? What? By the time you get to a third album, it's really, you should have locked down what you sound like.
That's true. Compared to Pinkerton, which is so like full of emotion and gets kind of messy at times, this does definitely feel very like workmanlike. Like, we went in, we have these songs, this is the bass line, and we're gonna just do the song, and we're done. They just they sort of just ground it out, which I think is to its detriment, in my opinion.
Yeah, as we get into what many people call Weezer's worst years, I think
Fallow period.
yeah. I think, there's a few different like franchises or brands that have gone through kind of the ups and downs that Weezer has. I don't know how many of them are like applicable, but one brand that kind of comes to mind is X-Files. It was a thing that started in the early 90s, hit an early peak, and people kind of went, oh, the only good parts of it are in the mid 90s, and now that they're just dragging it on, and they're really just has fallen from a classic to a real stinker. And
yeah.
the people who were involved in X-Files, from interviews and stuff that I've read, very much went, hey, look, like, we have a whole season of TV to make. There's going to be some clunkers. And that seems to be the attitude that Weezer has, even though Weezer has never, with the exception of Pinkerton, Weezer's never really, like, sworn off albums. Mm-hmm. But they seem very much to have the
Or
attitude.
sworn on albums.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Someone has to.
White Album Deluxe Edition. First time Weezer says the F word in a Weezer song.
Sick.
I think Lil Wayne says it and Can't Stop Partying on Ratitude, but that's not Weezer
You're
saying.
allowed for that to happen.
That's a great way to describe that song, is Weezer let that happen.
Weezer let it happen.
Yeah, okay. There seems to be a number of ways a number of attitudes people have towards putting out what has later been called bad art. Mm-hmm. And like the writers on X-Files have gone, hey, you know what? It happens. Some ideas just don't come together. You get people like George Lucas who go, hey, no, screw you. You don't get the prequels. I made them for kids. You guys are all party poopers. And Weezer seems to be very much in the middle ground of that, where they go, hey, you know what? We're coming out with an album every 2 years because it's our job. We're musicians. We're going on tour. We're making albums. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do?
Yeah. I think that generally my feelings about Weezer could be summed up as, I'd rather they fail in an interesting way than to like do okay in a less interesting way. Like we were talking about Hashpipe again. I'd rather hear an interesting bad song than an uninteresting, just kind of mediocre song. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Green Album is that song of their discography, where it's like, it's fine, it's not very interesting. There aren't songs I revisit, like Island of the Sun, Photograph to a certain extent, and that's pretty much it for songs that I would actively go back and listen to. Like, I mean, again, we'll get into further down the road that I think are more interesting failures. Mm-hmm. And this I just think is just sort of like just there.
This album seems to mark a shifting of the goalposts for Weezer. have some actual final thoughts now. Where, with Blue and Pinkerton, they really wanted to do something new, do something different. Rivers wanted to be very autobiographical. They wanted to be unique and special and very. They wanted to forge the idea of what Weezer songs were, and it feels like with the Green, they very much went. They shelved the idea of being super unique and special and said we want to be a big band that sells. And to that extent, they accomplished that goal with Green. It sold super well. They went on tour. They made a bunch of money off of it.
It does feel like they kind of looked at themselves and were like, we're a pop band. We're not a something else, an alternative.
Or a rock band.
Yeah.
That seems to be like a
Pop
recurring.
rock, to be fair, but
Yeah, well, it seems to be a recurring struggle with Weezer if they are continually asking themselves if they want to be a
commercially
pop band,
successful. And also, yeah,
a commercial pop band or much more of an alt rock.
a little more experimental, a little
Yeah.
more interesting choices.
And they make a clear decision with Green, and it pays off for them.
I think
in
a
terms of pays off.
super
Money,
interesting
bank account.
point to go off of what you had to say about.
Are you introducing your own point as super interesting?
No, it's not my point. It's just something that happened. It's an interesting thing that kind of. Yeah, that kind of goes along with what you were just saying, Tyler, about how they
switched up their priorities.
Yeah, they switched up their priorities. They said, you know what, we want to kind of get back in the public eye. We want to be famous again. We want to sell these CDs and make a name for ourselves again. We want people to know we're back. But they scrapped a lot of the more interesting songs they wrote. And like I was talking about earlier, they had a bunch of those more interesting songs written. A lot of songs from Maladroit, which only came out a year after this album. I think the interesting thing is one of their tours they went on in 2001 around the time this album came out was called the Corporate Sellout Tour. Which I think is very interesting. And
you might speak a little to the band's priorities at the time, huh?
I think so. I think there might be more to
Some
it though,
hidden meaning there.
because Rivers Cuomo was smarter than we're giving him credit for. I think he had all these interesting songs written, experimental songs, more risky songs that weren't as safe, and he had like
you're saying he had Maladroit like
Maladroit was pretty much all lined up and ready to go. Something we should actually talk about on a future episode is something called the Summer Songs 2000 or SS2K, as a lot of people call it. But it's a lot of songs they played while touring in 2000 that never made it to an album. And a lot of the songs ended up being on like Maladroit and stuff as well. So I think that'd certainly make for an interesting episode. But I think Rivers Cuomo, it had been 5 years since Weezer's last album, and that didn't go over so well. I think he wanted to put out an album that was such like a success, like more so corporate than something that's more interesting, right? Or more so a critical or like financial success.
That was more about rebranding Weezer.
Yeah. And that's then literally 1 year later, Maladroit comes out with a bunch of songs that have already been written. And that's where he put the more interesting songs.
Oh, all right.
And I think he knew that Maladroit wouldn't sell as well. He knew it wasn't going to do as well as Pinkerton. I mean, there was songs like Keep Fishing on it, which are certainly more poppy songs, but that's definitely more interesting poppy song than say something like Island in the Sun. I think we shouldn't just say Rivers Cuomo put together a very pop album because he wanted to sell out. I think there's a lot of label pressure and stuff. I think part of the reason like why I can say he knew that Maladroit wouldn't sell well, and I have no idea how much control he had over this, or it was probably more so the label. But in a lot of places in the world, like in Europe, they put Island in the Sun as a final track on Maladroit. So track 14 on Maladroit in some places is Island in the Sun, which I think is very interesting because they knew it wasn't going to be
telling.
Yeah.
Very interesting thought. And I feel like if people are going to
I love that.
leave
thought,
any
quite
comments
honestly.
on this podcast,
Honestly,
or
I
get
kind
back
of
to
put that
us.
together as I was going along.
I mean,
Yeah.
guys, audience, Green Album, like hastily slapped together bland pop album or part of a, well executed plan. Scheme, yeah.
We've got two conspiracies in this episode.
Scott Schreiner killed the Green Album. That about does it for our talk on the Green Album. I think we may have been a little more negative than I was hoping. It's not one of my favorites, certainly. Tyler, would you... Well, you don't have any context to go on, so...
No.
In general, where would you put this? Like, pretty good? Not a great...
I'd say just...
Side thumb?
I mean, side thumb, that whole idea that Chaz incepted into my head now of it being a very calculated,
I'm really liking this.
yeah. Oh,
got legs.
that is really, I mean, works of art should always be judged on their own without any sort of conspiracy from the outside. But from that angle, I mean, Green has a lot to be forgiven then, because it really is just a mission statement that Weezer's back in business and you can expect new music all the time from them, and they're going to be out doing shows and you should be tuning in. But on its own, Green just really falls flat and fails to have any sort of character. And what you can say about these two first albums of theirs that have held people's imaginations for so long is that they are full of character. Moving from blue to pink to green is just the complete, the almost complete erasure. Did I say pink?
Yeah, blue to pink to green.
From blue to Pinkerton to green, what I experience is the almost complete erasure of any sort of character or personality to their whole sound.
I think I'm with you. But great thing about Weezer is they've got more albums.
More to come.
And they're still the best. They're still the best songs.
Oh, they're the best band.
They've done all the best songs. We know that for sure. That will do it for us. Tyler, you had a fun little idea instead of plugging
our
things
lives.
that barely exist. It's my birthday today. I'll plug my birthday.
Happy birthday, Chris.
But thank you. But what? Tell them about your idea that you had.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up, and to wrap up, we're all going to name a non-Weezer album that we've all been digging lately. I'm going to start and say the album that I've been really... I feel like I'm late to most albums. They kind of crest and have their popularity, and then I come scoop by
I get that
2
too, to
years
some
later and go, hey,
extent.
this
Totally
album's
with
really
you.
good. And the album that I'm several years late to right now is Currents by Tame Impala.
That's a good
Nice.
one. I knew you were
Very
gonna say-
groovy, very catchy, such a unique sound. An album where I'd say, not to put the lyrics down, but the lyrics are very much not the centerpiece of any of the songs. The lyrics are very much part of the background and ambiance, and I'm very much a lyrics guy. I'm usually paying attention to the lyrics and nitpicking the lyrics, and this album shines through anyway without relying on lyrics at all.
Nice. Chaz, do you...
One that I've been listening to a lot over the past week or so has been The Hurting by Tears for Fears, which came out in 1983. So I'm quite late to the game on that one. But
We got no choice.
yeah, no, I mean, I've been a pretty big fan of a lot of songs from The Big Chair and some of the bigger songs off The Hurting. I've had the album sitting on my shelf for ages, but never got around to giving it like a very thorough listen and like actually paying attention to each of the songs and letting them sink in. But I've been doing that a lot recently, and I've really liked what I've been hearing. I think it's got a lot of great, a lot of pop aspects to it, but with a lot of more interesting instrumentation as well. Because it really is like 80s pop, where a lot of it wasn't just, or a lot of the stuff that stuck around and is still interesting today wasn't as bland.
I am going to go with an album that I very recently came across that I really dig. Traveler by Chris Stapleton. Now, if you're like me, I kind of thought that Chris Stapleton was in the same category of like a Brad Paisley, like Keith Urban, like a poppy country kind of thing. And then I heard Chris Stapleton on Justin Timberlake's one of his new singles. By the way, not my recommendation of the week. But yeah, and I heard Chris Stapleton, and I was like, oh, his voice is actually really cool and interesting. Like, maybe I've kind of been like miscategorizing him. This is a great album, great country folky album. Has some pedal steel, some southern rock influence. I've really been enjoying it, and it is one that I definitely have slept on or never even thought of as something I would
Woken
listen
up to it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, really enjoyed that. It's from 2015. So check that out. I think that's going to do it for this episode of In the Garage. If you're a regular follower, thank you very much. I didn't realize Tyler had posted these on the Weezer subreddit, and I was reading some of the comments, and I was just, they warmed my little heart. So truly, if you're
And
listening
big
to these, and my one big lung. So truly, if you are listening to these regularly, we super appreciate you. We make this for other Weezer fans to listen to, just because we like it. So
I make this for Weezer to listen to.
yeah, and what much like you talking you two to me, one day we will interview Weezer on this podcast, and it's going to be a treat. Again, thank you. Sorry that you didn't have a song, or fuck am I talking about? Sorry that you didn't hear an episode from us for a couple weeks there. We had some scheduling issues, namely people being out of the country, but we're going to try to be putting out an episode every week. So what? Well, you know, well, didn't we put out the first two on a roughly weekly basis?
It was like 10 days between.
Okay, well, we'll say 10 days. A 1 to 2 week kind of range. So we'll hopefully get some episodes in the can, so we can have a slightly more regular release schedule.
Especially because we're not all living in the same city right now.
That's true.
We fit this in where we can. I do 90% of the work.
Hey. Hey now.
And
You're an
love
all-star.
it. Just saying. I'm an all-star.
Speaking of all-star, just one little thing I want to add in that I was just reading is that as we all know, Weezer covered "I'm a Believer" for Shrek 2, I believe it was. Are you sure?
Wait.
Hold on a second.
Pretty sure it was Smash Mouth. I'm pretty sure they did "I'm a Believer" and
Oh, it was from Shrek Forever After. I'm sorry. Yeah, they recorded a cover of "I'm a Believer" for Shrek Forever After. That's the 4th installment in the Shrek series, I believe.
Wait, holy shit! I did not know they did that.
And it says here on Wikipedia, previously Weezer had planned to include an early version of "My Best Friend" from Make Believe on Shrek 2, but it was rejected due to the song sounding too much like it was written for Shrek. That's going to do it for In the Garage. I'm Chris. For Tyler and Chaz, so long. We'll see you soon. For the 3rd time. Cool.
That's that. I just watched binge season 3 of Arrested Development last night in one sitting. And I always forget how many crazy things are in that season.
Mr. F.
Mr. F. Where
Are we talking on this show right now, or are we waiting for Chris to finish fixing the pop?
I'll decide later.
There's
Like-
4 British eyes only.
Yeah, Andy Richter is quintuplets.
That's a good one. That's a show.
Forget Me Now. Everyone collectively gets roofied at some point.
Yeah, that's another show. There's some other show that I'm thinking of that is in this vein. Maybe it's Community.
I was thinking Community is so similar.
You don't realize how it's
How
like
off the rails it is.
that, but also like literally every episode there is a joke that it's like, oh, I think about that joke and quote that joke
Yeah.
a lot. And it's like literally every episode has one of those.
Yeah.
Community's got some great bits.
You know what I realized? Like, there's that season 3 episode in Arrested Development where the whole joke is right at the end. Everyone is trying to show the other person a lesson, and it keeps,
Right.
Yeah, and that's why you don't, because they pretend to kidnap George.
Right. And
And the one-armed man shows up. That is, Community did that exact same bit for that season 2 episode where there's like the whole missing professor in the department.
Oh yeah.
With Professor Sin.
The drama
It's the example
yeah.
of that's why you
That's a
don't
good
do
episode.
this. Yeah. Both are still great.
When I was first getting into Weezer, I would listen to like the Blue album and the Green album just all the way through, like back to back, over and over again. And I wouldn't know the names of any of the songs really, right? And I just remember hearing Island in the Sun, being like, fuck, what song is that? And then I go through and I just see Holiday is on the tracks. I'm like, yo, Holiday. And like, I'm like, what the fuck?
Is that right? That harmony? That can't be right.
I think the higher one was right.
Yeah, that is right.